past, few months, New Yorkers have seen chaos in their subways, including including a woman who we just talked about who was set on fire, a man who walked up to a rider, kicked him on the tracks. We saw stabbings as well. But there may be no better example of the viral chaos than Daniel Penny's case, when the veteran apprehended a homeless man, Jordan Neely, a violent criminal who frightened passengers. The case caught national attention as Penny and his lawyer went up against Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg, and they won. And joining us live now is the veteran hero lawyer himself, Tom Kenniff. Tom, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here. Daniel Penny, a U.S. Marine veteran, was acquitted on criminally negligent homicide charges in the death of Jordan Neely. It was a unanimous decision in a liberal enclave. Neely had over 50 arrests. He was allowed to terrorize subway riders. I mean, what does this unanimous decision say about, New Yorkers and how they feel about crime on the subways?
Absolutely. I think it shows that people are fed up, and one of the things that I think there is increasing frustration with is all these crime statistics. Just yesterday it came out, major crime is down, this crime level is down, so forth. I've always said, and I said this when I was campaigning to run for Manhattan District Attorney years ago in 2021, that the only statistic that anyone should really be concerned with, or at least should be most concerned with, is how many preventable crimes are occurring, right? Even in the best of the Giuliani years, right? You can't eliminate crime. It's part of the human condition, and it certainly it infects large cities like New York. But are there crimes that are occurring that are unnecessary, that are preventable because of dysfunctional bail laws, because of the dysfunctional mental health system? That's really what we need to be concerned with as a society.
I just saw a statistic that says 145% spike in felony assaults. This is in the subway systems by repeat offenders. Statistics,
Right.
Statistics show that violent crime rates in NYC subways up 80%. This is compared to 2019. Meanwhile, just yesterday, the MTA boss said the crime is in people's heads. Governor Kathy Hochul also downplaying. Can we play that sound and then we'll have you weigh in?
Last year, we were actually 12.5% less crime than 2019, the last year before COVID. But there's no question that some of these high-profile incidents, terrible attacks, have gotten in people's heads.
Have gotten in people's heads. Are New Yorkers just being gaslit? It's like, don't believe your lying eyes. What you're seeing is not really happening.
Well, it's exactly the point I was making before, and the statistic you brought up, recidivist offenders,
Yeah.
repeat offenders. When you have a repeat offender, that is almost by definition an example of a preventable offense, because what that shows is that if the criminal justice system had functioned as it should have been functioning, meaning that you are assigning a consequence to criminal activity and also preventing recidivism by incapacitating individuals that we know, based on their track record and their history, are just going to offend. If you have a criminal justice system that is doing that is functioning the way it's supposed to, then you don't have these crimes committed by people like Jordan Neely, you mentioned earlier, with 50 some odd prior arrests. And those are only the circumstances. When someone is arrested, that's just a crime that you know about, right?
Right.
For many people that commit offenses, the statistics bear this out, that it takes dozens of times for someone to break the law before they're actually caught. So if they've been caught 50 times, you can rest assured that they've committed hundreds of these type of offenses. And if we're doing these catch and release policies, or depriving judges of the ability to take these people off the street by assessing bail in appropriate cases, then the system is failing anyone. And try to tell, a victim or the family of a violent crime victim that, it's unfortunate that happened, and it's unfortunate the criminal justice system didn't deal with your relative's assailant the other 40 or 50
Right.
times that they've been caught. But by the way, crime is down overall. I mean, do you think that is any it gives them any sense of relief? Of course it doesn't.
No, I think it makes New Yorkers more angry, and this is why, a lot of people say why the unanimous decision in Daniel Penny's case, happened. Do you think that, Daniel Penny's incident exposed the truth behind what's going on the subways? I mean, a lot of people say, who I know in New York, they say, well, you know what? I ride the subways, it doesn't feel safe, and all I know is the NYPD isn't coming to save you. We saw a woman who was torched, and NYPD officers, were just standing there. Now you have Curtis Sliwa and his guardian angels patrolling the subways. Again, do you think that Daniel Penny's case exposed what's happening on subways?
Well, I think it exposed it. And I think it also, one of the reasons why we were successful is that so much of this had already, been exposed and was already in the conscious of New Yorkers. Again, Republican, Democrat, it crosses party lines. I mean, all you have to be is have an ounce of reasonableness to recognize what a crisis we have on our subway system. And when we were going into jury selection, and by the way, jury selection took 8 days in this case. We went through about 500 potential jurors. One of the questions we knew to ask based on our pretrial research and the polling we did was, do you believe that crime has gone up in the subway or has become an increasing problem? 11 out of the 12 jurors that were selected ultimately to sit on this case answered yes to that question, and scores of others that weren't selected did as well. So, coming into this trial, Manhattanites were very aware, and people all through New York City and beyond, of just how serious a crisis we have here, but yet consistently, from the city council to the state legislature to the governor's office, New York State politicians are repeatedly proven themselves unwilling to acknowledge it or deal with it in any sort of practical way.
Tom, why do you think, the Soros-backed Alvin Bragg went after Maureen Penny with so much passion? A man who was literally just protecting riders who are being terrorized. Is it because he's a Marine, a patriot? We've seen how this administration has treated people like that.
Listen, I can't get inside the head of, Alvin Bragg and the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. What I will say is, I had tried to give the Manhattan DA's office and DA Bragg something of the benefit of the doubt. And I said to myself, look, for whatever reason, this grand jury indicted, and we know the reason, it's just such a ridiculously low standard, they can indict anyone. And he is an elected official. He has constituents that he has to answer to and factions. And, we figured, look, they're going to let the case be tried and the jury would make the decision. But we saw just the ferocious, I think you used the term passion that they had, and really just, I refer to it as a bloodlust for wanting to convict my client. I've never seen anything like that in nearly just about 25 years of practice and being a prosecutor, defense attorney, mostly in Manhattan, by the way. I've never seen anything like it. So it was a very awful thing to see. And I can only tell you that, it made it all the better that the jury vindicated Danny.
I want to make it clear, not just vindicated him, unanimously, like I said, in a liberal enclave, which is huge, right, Tom?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, so many people, look, from the get-go, I mean, we believed in our case. And when I say the get-go, I'm talking, 20 months ago when my client was first arraigned. I have tried a lot of cases in Manhattan and beyond, and I believe in the jury system. And, I said from the beginning that, look, I don't care about the politics of it. I don't care that no one needs to tell me, how much of a Democratic enclave this is. I've ran for office here. But at the end of the day, jurors are reasonable, particularly Manhattan jurors tend to be very educated, very sophisticated. They could see through the nonsense. And perhaps more important than any of that, they ride the subway, right? So, I believed this was going to happen. Of course, when you're in it, it's nerve-wracking. But I always believed that the jury was going to get it right, and they did get it right. And I think that, the fact that this was a jury in a quote unquote liberal jurisdiction and reached that unanimous verdict of not guilty, I just think it underscores, how absolutely inept politicians and leadership in New York City, New York State, and really in so many big cities across the country have been at reading the pulse of the people that they purport to represent, and just how frustrated they are, rightfully so,
Right.
with the anarchy that is taking place on our subways and our streets.
Well, I hope your lawmakers get it right, because now you guys have that congestion tax, which is going to, force more people onto the subways. Really, I mean, this is a huge thing. This is what people are talking about. But, you're talking about running for office. I mean, you're a veteran lawyer. You went up against the Soros-backed Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg in 2021. By the way, Soros just got a, Medal of Freedom. Had you won, many New Yorkers feel things would have been different. Elections have consequences, and I don't think people realize the importance of their local elections, like DAs. Would you consider running again?
A lot of people have asked me that question, and things would have been different if I don't mean that in a self-aggrandizing way, if me or someone like me had won. And really all you need, it could have been a Democrat, it could have been a Republican. You're talking about a traditional prosecutor who believes in doing the things that prosecutors are supposed to do, which means enforcing law and order. You do it fairly, you do it reasonably, you do it proportionally. Not everyone needs to be locked up for 20 years for committing, certain offenses, but there are some people that need deterrence. Would I run again? I never say never, but I think one of the things that has to happen, certainly in New York, but in beyond, is that the parties have to invest in candidates, even if they're a long shot, in order to create a beachhead, in order to start building a counter narrative to, the Soros-backed insanity that is progressive criminal justice. So, I did not get that support when I ran, unfortunately. I had a lot of wonderful people who supported me, and it was a great experience either way. But, unfortunately, when you're running for political office, you have to be well financed, and you have to have the support even for a race like Manhattan DA, local, state, and national political apparatus. So I hope whoever runs this time again, whoever it is, has that kind of support.
Well, you said never say never, so it could be you. So hello, anyone out there? Tom Kenniff needs financing. I mean, it is 2025. It's very different now. And like I said, elections have consequences, and I think people all over the nation are starting to realize that local elections are very, very important. Look what's happening in New York. Look what's happening in LA. It's the same thing.
Yeah, well, these local elections are, really, I would say on a day-to-day basis. I'm not just talking about district attorney. I'm talking about who your state legislature is and so forth. I mean, part of the reason we have the dysfunction we have in New York, in New York State, has to do with the legislature in Albany. I mean, it is just run and monopolized. Again, not by your ordinary run-of-the-mill Democrats. A lot of those people are my dear friends, and they're beautiful people. But by really radical, extreme, call them progressive, call them democratic socialists. Those are the inmates running the asylum up in my state, in Albany anyway. I mean, I imagine it's probably not much different in places like California and so forth. So, but these local politicians, most of us don't even know the name, right? I mean, we might be embarrassed to say it, but I don't know who's my state legislature, who's my state senator, who's my district attorney. If you're not in the legal world like I am, a lot of people have no idea. But those folks probably have much more impact on your day-to-day life than who's in U.S. Congress, U.S. Senate, or even the White House, for that matter.
You're right.
I firmly believe that.
Well, we'll be watching to see what Tom Kenniff does, because I like how you said never say never. That means there's a chance. There's always a chance. Tom Kenniff, thank you so much for being here. I wish nothing but the best in 2025 for New Yorkers, because they deserve it. It's their taxpaying dollars. They don't feel safe. There's so much chaos, but their lawmakers are just gaslighting them and saying, you know what? Don't believe your lying eyes.
Yeah, it's a very, very tragic situation.
Yeah. Tom, good to see you. Thank you so much.
All right, great being here. Thank you.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.